Today's episode brought to you by Gnawbone Studios. Show, don't tell.
This is Vera Kurian, and you should be watching the Crew Reviews.
So let's raise a glass. Everybody, we have Vera Kurian in the house.
There she is. How are you?
I'm good. I've got some red wine.
Excellent. I'm drinking bourbon.
Yep. Little bourbon.
What are you drinking?
That little bourbon.
Bourbon.
We had
okay.
We had to carry over from the weekend.
Two shows ago, I was drinking white wine. That was for
that was an unusual occurrence.
Yeah, it was unusual. Usually we drink bourbon on the show, but we want to talk about you. I want to talk about Never Saw Me Coming. It's your debut novel. That fact just blew my mind. And I think when others read it, it will blow theirs too in a very good way.
Yep.
It's gripping. It's unique. And what Lisa Gardner said, it's fiendishly clever. Would you mind giving us a peek into what readers have in store when they crack open Never Saw Me Coming?
Sure. Never Saw Me Coming is a psychological thriller. It is about an 18-year-old named Chloe, who is a diagnosed psychopath. She is entering a special program at a university in DC where 7 psychopaths get to go to college for free for 4 years in exchange for donating their minds and bodies to the program for 4 years, which also teaches them behavioral modification, and they do therapy and stuff.
Right.
The real reason she's there is to hunt down and kill a boy from her childhood who goes to the same university. What she does not know is that someone in the city is hunting down the 7 psychopaths one by one, which gets in the way of her plan.
Competition.
Yeah. She has some competition going on.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of psychopaths running around a school. And you mention in the story that there's playing cards that are dedicated to these serial killer psychopaths.
Oh, that's
very
true.
Interesting. So apparently sane or insane people collect these trading cards like baseball cards. And I can guess why insane people might enjoy such a hobby. But why do you think, quote unquote, normal people are fascinated by the macabre like that?
I mean, in all fairness, I'm someone who consumes a lot of true crime, and I do think about the ethics of it. I have a friend whose husband is a medical examiner, and he does not watch any TV where murder is a form of entertainment, which I understand. But when I'm consuming true crime, there is a part of me that thinks about the vulture-like nature of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the extreme end is collecting the playing cards. And at the more benign end is just someone who I think also a lot of women find it very fascinating. And I think it's like a weird anxiety thing of like, well, something really bad happened, but to someone else. I don't know. I can't really explain it.
Hey, so when I was reading about that, I think I vaguely remembered something, or maybe I was remembering the Iraq War. They had like playing cards for the we want to capture
exactly.
Guys. And then I went and Googled it because I usually do that when I get fascinating facts within a story. I'm like, I got to Google this. I'm like, this is crazy. And then sure, lo and behold, man, I was like, wow. I'm like, there are some psychopaths in this world.
These people get like marriage proposals and stuff while they're in jail and things too.
Yes, actually, a few of them have.
So all you
the state of women is sad.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the book now. So Chloe's in first person. So we kind of get to sit in the driver's seat of a psychopath. Had you worked with people in the past in your clinical days that helped guide you and how you perceive the world, how they perceive the world, and what propelled them to course of action?
No. So my background is actually in social psychology, which is not, you don't see patients. It's social psychology. It's so broad, but it's basically the study of either how personality or context can affect attitudes or behavior, which is extremely broad.
Yeah.
I studied politics and quantitative methods. So my interest in psychopaths was just based kind of on, what I knew and then what I had read about. And I wanted to do a first person perspective, but to have her have a lot of terrible traits, but to then have her be really appealing in some ways that would make the reader uncomfortable.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a fine line there. Like you can totally turn off readers. Like you make this person so disgusting. Like, you know what? I don't want to read this girl. But I found her so fascinating.
Right.
I was like, how does she tick? And what is she going to do next? And how is she going to take all the information she's receiving and like how I would perceive it and what I would do with it and what is she going to do with it? But following up on Mike, so Chloe's told in the first person point of view, while the rest of the story is told in third person point of view. And I loved being inside her head. But why did you choose that storytelling device, switching back and forth? Was that like a conscious choice, or were you just like, this is just the way it works?
I wanted to use, so I felt like psychological thrillers had some aspects to them that were like a little stagnant, like very close POV to one character. And I wanted to take advantage of the fact that different points of views that can then create dramatic irony. So you have Chloe, who's presenting the world through her POV and how she thinks she's coming off or she's coming off. And then you see like the therapist's perspective where he thinks about, oh, she's like a very intelligent, driven young girl, but he has no idea that she's thinking about murder. And then you have these other points of views, and then you actually get to see what those characters are like from another perspective. And then you have like, when you get to the third point of view, that person has information that the other two didn't know. So then you get to drop clues without doing some kind of trickery. And like, I'm a very old-fashioned writer. I don't want there to be any kind of trickery. So I wanted to do reveals by point of view rather than some kind of sleight of hand.
Those reveals propel the story. It was awesome. I read it in like a sitting. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Which is a good thing, right?
Yes.
I take it as a compliment.
Yeah. So you have an extensive background that really puts you in a situation where you kind of explain these people, and your credibility is there from your work. But that's only part of what makes a book readable and compelling. So what have you done from the craft of storytelling through your life to get you to this point to where now you're able to produce a book of work that brings your professional life and your artistic life together?
Yeah, so I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm a very old-fashioned storyteller. Like, I think even if a lot of my premises are high concept, I'm always going to go back to character. Like, that's the most important thing. And with a lot of thrillers, you just kind of read them and put them down, and you're like, well, that's the book where the woman is married to the man who did whatever, but you don't really remember the characters.
No.
And for me, the characters is the most important thing. No matter what the wacky premise is, I want people to feel really compelled or fall in love with characters. So that was kind of, the first thing that I came up with and the most important thing. And when I'm writing a book, I will spend a lot of time thinking about character before I'm even writing.
Did you take classes, or, what have you done, from a writing profession standpoint to kind of bring you up to this point in your career?
Well, I've always been a very avid reader. I did go to a magnet school for half of high school where I did writing. And then in college, I minored in creative writing. But then when I went to grad school, it was like so rough. I didn't do a lot of writing there.
24/7.
And I stopped for a while until 2013. And then I only did short stories. That was like the only thing I wanted to do. Was I did very literary short stories.
Were you published?
By the time this book got acquired, I'd probably published half a dozen short stories or novellas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were more like traditionally literary than genre. So I had started publishing those in like 2013, and then didn't intend to write a novel because I know getting a novel published is very, very, very hard.
Yeah.
But
congrats on that, by the way.
Fell into it.
You didn't fall into it. You worked towards it.
It's true.
So we've talked to a couple times. We've talked to S.A. Cosby. Sean Cosby is a fantastic crime noir novelist, and he started off writing short stories. I kind of like taken some of that, like his process and stuff, and try to incorporate it in me and my publishing endeavors. But it's made him a so much better writer, because you were talking about character driven stories and stuff. Like you have to. Yeah, like you have to be about the character, because if you in the short story, because it can't be about so much about plot driven.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's not enough time to develop all that. But so there's a societal stigma, right or wrong, associated with being labeled clinically as a psychopath, right?
Yeah,
you see it dramatized in movies, in books, and entertainment in general. And It Never Saw Me Coming, you based the story around a group of students brought together by a professor who wants to study and help them integrate into society as best as possible. So several times throughout the story, you make reference that there's so much we don't know or understand about a psychopath. And I imagine that there are real world studies similar to the one in your story. And if there's not, shouldn't there be?
The study of psychopathy is interesting. So it's not actually a diagnosis that's in the DSM, which is the
DSM-5.
Yeah. So the study of psychopathy was initially spearheaded by people studying men in prison specifically. So a lot of it was tied up with like criminology and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The population of psychologists who do study it tend to think of it as uniquely different than something like antisocial personality disorder.
Right.
So part of the inspiration for the book was that I had heard about 2 programs for young boys in juvenile facilities who were studied, for their psychopathic traits, and that there wasn't a treatment protocol that was very effective on psychopaths. And then they developed this treatment protocol where everything was put in terms of how it would benefit them. So it's not the case that, don't hit that boy because it hurts. They don't care that it hurts. So don't hit that boy and you'll get a reward. So everything is like reward based in their own self-interest.
That's interesting.
So the program, as described in the book, is teaching them to go along with the rules of society, not because those rules are inherently right, but in order to keep you out of trouble for your own self-interest. So that was
self-deserving.
Yeah. Well, there's a heavy base of narcissism involved with with that. And so if you do give the reward, then they're getting something out of it.
Yeah. They want praise and attention.
So in the story, you have a character, Trevor, who's diagnosed as a juvenile as a antisocial person, right? Are most psychopaths that have that antisocial personality disorder?
So a lot of psychopaths probably don't get diagnosed at all. And to be diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, like odds are you ended up in a clinical setting for some other reason,
right?
Marriage counseling or, whatever. And then that comes up. It's not the case where, similarly to like anxiety or depression, where you're like, I feel bad, I need to fix myself. Because if you are a narcissist, you likely don't think there's anything wrong with you.
No.
So I think there probably, like the professor in the book says, there probably are a lot of people who get diagnosed with antisocial personality who probably are psychopaths.
Right.
And it's this like weird like diagnostic issue of like I don't even know how.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back in my days when I was during my psych rotation, and the way it was explained to me was that psychopathy is the extreme version of antisocial disorder and behavior disorder. So they kind of go hand in hand. It's just the extreme version of that. So I think that's probably why a lot of people don't get diagnosed with it, because they're already there. They just haven't been shown to be the extreme version of it. And that's about the extent that I remember anything.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people like fighting over the exact terminology or what should or shouldn't be diagnosed. But there's
a lot of damaged people out there. A lot of damaged people. My gosh.
So I've talked at length about part of this subject with my physician friends, Robin Cook, Tess Gerritsen. We've talked on the show and offline. it's incredibly easy to go off on a high level medical / clinical sociological tangent in your word speak that you use amongst your peers, and it doesn't always jive with what the general audience kind of understands. You mentioned if you talk too much about your work, they kind of just close off and they say, oh, I don't like this book anymore. Right. How conscious are you of incorporating your personal work in your field into the book, in terms of trying to be enough true to what's going on in the storyline without completely losing the audience in what they might not understand what you know?
Yeah, I mean, that was something I was hoping that I did successfully. And there's a chapter early on where she goes to her first therapy session, and then we get some information about psychopathy.
Yeah.
And that was clearly to introduce it to the reader, but I also didn't want it to be like an info dump.
Yeah.
So I tried to have it as a conversation between her and the clinician about some of the like misunderstandings about it. But I mean, ultimately, like it kind of is an info dump. Just a question of like how acceptable an info dump it is.
Yeah. I get accused of, talking a little too much sometimes. And then I get different answers from different people. Robin Cook's like, leave it all in. And Tessa's like,
some people love it.
Don't talk about it at all. And so there's kind of this weird line, this wiggly line. You're trying to figure out where you're supposed to land on it.
And it's totally subjective too.
When we talked to Tess Gerritsen and Gary Braver for their latest book that came out earlier this year, Gary was saying how he likes to include it, but he always try to get that information to the reader. He always has it through dialogue, and you did that too.
Yeah.
Where you have like a lay person and it's being kind of explained or whatnot. And there wasn't because that's not my field, although I'm in the criminal justice field, but there was no point during that story where I felt overburdened or there was medical jargon that I didn't understand or anything like that. Like, in fact, it fascinated the heck out of me. And then several times as I was reading, I'm at Google and I'm like, wait a minute, let me look this up, because that's cool as shit. But at this, in the story, there were multiple points during the story where I attempted to guess who was behind the killings or everything that was going on, that Charlie and Trevor and Chloe were trying to figure out. And each time, this annoyed the crap out of me. But congratulations, I was wrong. I thought it was, I'm like, oh, it's so this.
Some investigator you are.
I don't want to give any spoilers away. Like, yeah, I know, right? Some special agent, some criminal investigator I am. I suck. But I love that. I loved it because it kept me turning pages. So some authors we speak to sometimes don't know the endings until it's revealed to them as they write. Did you know the ending as you were writing?
Yeah.
And if you did at any point, did it change? Did the ending change? Okay.
I have. If you look on my website, there's a Facebook post I made in 2017, where I was like, hey guys, I'm thinking of writing a book about, and I described the premise. And what I did not take a picture of is a few bars down, I said something like, yeah, and the person who did it is.
Oh,
so
really?
I knew
you added yourself.
Yeah, I knew what it would be. And then I think for me, writing, I like to plot everything out, but especially for a mystery, you have to do clue drops. And so either you end up rewriting a lot, or you can structure everything so that it makes sense. And like, I mean, there are red herrings and there are some clues to figure it out, but like, ultimately, I'm not a mystery reader who like desperately wants to figure things out. I'm more interested in like watching characters figure things out. So to me, like the greatest compliment is when someone is like, yeah, I was interested in knowing who did it, but I was more interested in seeing how these specific characters would solve the mystery.
Oh yeah. Being the fly on the wall between in the conversations or being inside of Chloe's head, just how they were dealing with all the information. I loved it. I loved it.
I did too. And I'm waiting for her decision making to like totally blow my mind. That's not what a normal person does.
which it does at one point, and then the callousness, it just amazed me. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's amazing.
Quite callous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some questions about how far she actually will go to get what she wants, and who she.
Oh, you find out you'll find out as a reader.
Yeah. You will. Well, you just mentioned your writing process, and you said you're an outliner. A lot of scientific people are. I think they find that kind of true to when you're writing medical publication or scientific publication, it's just about as dry as a set of instruction manual from IKEA. But so where do you fall? I mean, it's still a creative process, regardless of the fact that you're really outlining and really plotting things down on paper. So where do you find yourself on that spectrum in terms of allowing yourself the creative room to maneuver within a tightly or semi-tightly written outline?
So I think that the outline for me serves as, I don't have a ton of time. I don't write full time for a living. I have a lot of things going on. So if I have an hour to do something, I want to make use of that time.
Right.
So I do, it's not that I know everything that's going to happen in a book, but I typically have, I don't know, 80 to 90% of the plot points figured out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just know I need to get A to B. I don't really know how. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I'll end up getting there. I mean, the novel that I'm writing now, I am plotting out every single thing.
Do you plot out the chapters, the individual chapters? Or
individual scenes, even.
Scenes,
Oh, even within chapters. Yeah, I plot out chapters for sure. And sometimes I will rearrange when a chapter is occurring. But
we had Kyle Mills. Kyle Mills writes the Vince Flynn stories, political thriller stories. He writes these detailed outlines, or 30,000 word
30
outlines.
to 40,000 words.
And then,
I
do that too.
But then he takes this chapter should go here, and it's amazing. And then we had Lee Goldberg on recently, and he was saying how he writes, because he was in Hollywood, or he is in Hollywood. He writes a screenplay of the story.
Oh wow!
And that serves, because he can write a screenplay in 3 weeks, which he's awesome. Three weeks he can write a screenplay, and then that serves as his outline, because he needs to hey, I got this great idea, this great story, let me see if it works. And then he'll write a screenplay and he'll go, yep, it works. Now I can use this as my outline for the novel, which takes a little bit longer, obviously, to write. And I'm just like, man, that is amazing. One, I'm like you, I don't have the time. So I need to, and what am I writing? I don't need to spend 30 minutes figuring out what the heck I'm going to write. And then a kid needs to go to bed or take a bath.
Yeah.
But so I can usually tag a story as being either plot driven or character driven. And you talked about this before, but You Never Saw Me Coming, it kind of straddles both. So Charles and Trevor, and especially Chloe, they are unique and compelling. And if you remove the dialogue tags, I can easily tell who's speaking. Hell, I can even do it with the minor characters like Chad or Jessica, Chloe's
Chad.
roommate. Chad's kind of funny. And I know lots of Chads at Rutgers University. But the characters propel the story, but the plot is fascinating. And just when readers think that they've reached the climax, the story goes deeper and it goes a hell of a lot faster.
Yeah.
So you kind of did it already, describing the story. Is it plot driven or character driven? So when you start writing, is it more like, I need these characters in the story, and do you write reams of backstory that just never ends up in the story? Are you that character driven? Because the story is character driven, but
I think I knew the first scene that I saw in my head. I can't really say without spoiling it. It's a scene where someone takes a handkerchief out.
Oh yeah.
It's the geode scene, and I saw what happened there.
You saw that scene first?
Yeah, and I felt like I knew everything about those two characters when I saw that, and that I knew a lot about Chloe. That in terms, she's smart, determined, and kind of shallow and judgmental too. I knew that starting that out. I didn't know she would end up being funny, so that kind of ended up coming along as I was writing.
It made her likable, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to dislike someone who's funny.
Right.
But that's the truth.
I know.
It's very disarming. I think with the other two, so with Andre, I because he's kind of like an emotional anchor. I worked on his character quite a bit more because he is the character who is closest to the reader in some ways.
Yes, because he's somewhat.
It's not really a spoiler. He's not a psychopath, but he's in the program. But so how do you write a thriller where the main characters don't feel fear, like
Yeah.
really hard. So Andre plays this important role in that he does feel fear. So he carries a lot of emotional weight
Right.
for the story. And then I wanted him to feel like a full three-dimensional person with this like family background and also trying to solve this mystery and also not get killed. So
and then you have Charlie, who kind of is attempting to straddle both of those worlds, but
yeah,
he does some really interesting things.
I really like his character because
I
he's
love
like,
his character.
He's kind of tragic. Like he's trying to be a good person.
Yeah,
trying very hard.
Failing.
Yeah.
He's got that rock of a girlfriend, and he's got the alcoholic, career-driven father. And it's just those characters. And so we read a lot of books, and so you read them like, yeah, it's a good story. And there were several times where I read your story, and I'm just like, those characters are like in my head. I'm like, man, they're fascinating.
I've done my job then.
Yeah,
you did a fantastic job. No joke. I mean,
for me,
gotta read that.
So people in the psychopathy arena as patients, or as people, you actually can't cure them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can't cure them, but when you see people trying to become better and trying to become a better member of society with pretty much an incurable behavioral issue, it's almost like this Don Quixote thing where they're trying, but they're never going to get there. So I found that thread carry a lot of weight for me, knowing what I knew about that particular disorder. So yeah, I with everything that you just mentioned, I just had this little extra level of weight to the story for me. So I found that like I would not stop reading the book.
I think they each have a different perspective on their diagnosis. Like, one person's trying to make themselves better. Chloe doesn't think there's anything wrong with her. She's just like, free college.
Free college.
I love the aspect of the no fear, and I love how they're able to sniff each other out, where they probe each other.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was just like, man,
you can't trust anyone in a world like this.
Awesome. It's such a cool premise. Anyway, I can speak Googles of it, man. Everybody should go out and buy this book and read it.
For sure. In your acknowledgments, you mentioned 300 rejections. Was that for this particular manuscript?
No, if you add, so I tried to get an agent for a long period of time. So this is the third book I attempted to get an agent for.
Okay.
So my first book, like probably queried close to 200 agents, and then add the second book, and then add this one. If you put that together, it's about 300. And I came close a few times. So it was people were always telling me like, no, you're so close. Like you're gonna hit it.
Yeah.
And then
the agents were telling you that, or like industry
people, but like I was getting revise and resubmits, and then getting a lot of like, this is like, I hate to reject this, but so it was getting a lot of that.
Why reject it?
Right.
Don't tell me that.
Are you supposed to help me fix this?
Yeah. So I had a lot of like, embarrassing moments where I went to Breadloaf and had meetings with agents who'd already rejected me. So there were a lot of people rooting for me for a long period of time because I knew them in the writing community since 2013. And then all of a sudden this big book comes out.
Where did you find the, because at some point you say, you know what, I have spent probably 2,000 hours on this thing. At what point do you say, okay, that's enough, I got to get some other stuff? Where did you come up with the strength to continue that uphill battle to carry you through? I mean, because really, at some point you have to say, is all of this worth it? Like, I could have learned a new language by now or something, right? Like, where did you come up
another PhD, Mike?
Yeah, exactly. So where did you come up with the strength to kind of carry through?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because at some point I did table that first novel.
Yeah.
Second novel I actually might do something with, but
awesome.
It is a sad, kind of harrowing process when you're going through and you're like, is this bad or is it good, or is it the market, or why
my mom
is this
says it's good, damn it. Yeah.
Right. So, and you'll read books that are published and you're like, I kind of think my book's better.
Yes.
It's really hard to figure out where you are, but dealing with rejection, if you can't deal with rejection, you cannot be a published author.
No.
I'll give
Have
you
a really,
Yeah.
a really thick skin to keep going. And I
Yeah.
knew when I wrote this book that it had a very like viral feel to it.
Yeah.
And I told myself, if I cannot get an agent for this book, there is no book I can write that will get an agent, because this book is like the book.
Yeah.
And I think I was right.
And sure shit, it is the book.
Absolutely
It is. No joke. All right. So so the CRD killer is mentioned throughout. Never saw me coming. It's kind of important to the story. So could you please tell our audience a little about who he is or was and what he did? Because people may not know. Be surprised if they don't know, but who he was.
Well, this is fictional, but based on Ted Bundy,
based
clearly,
on
Ted Bundy
So-
may be a bit of BTK, but maybe that in DC there being a fictional serial killer,
right,
who like Ted Bundy, raped and killed women in some horrifying way, and then it led to a national, everyone's eyes on this trial to try this person, which is what happened with Ted Bundy. And that person was then put to death similarly. And this is kind of getting the background of the story, because like Andre is a true crime fan, so he knows all about that particular case. And like, well, what does that have to do with what's going on now? And that's a big question in the book.
So is he you in the story?
No, wait, is
no,
no,
I don't mean the psychopath. I mean the because you mentioned that you like the true crime stuff and you listen to the podcasts and the stories and that aspect of it. I don't mean the other. I don't mean
the killer.
I don't mean he's a fictional character.
Yeah, I think if I had to pick a character I was closest to, it's probably Andre. And like I was interested in true crime and liking nerdy science fiction, horror movies, that type of stuff. And like his experience, being a brown person at a mostly white college, which was similar to mine, way back in the day where colleges were less diverse than they are now. So some of those things kind of carried over.
Where did you go to school?
I went to GW, which like the school in the book, John Adams University, is clearly like making fun of GW.
Yeah,
close,
So you have you're working on another story. So when you sold this book, did you sell it as a 1-book deal or a 2-book deal? One book deal.
Okay.
So are you going to continue on the psychological side of it, or are you going to go a little bit different direction?
Yeah, interesting that you ask. This was a serious conversation we had with my agent, my editor, where I am a multi-genre.
At Park Row, right?
Yeah, I'm a multi-genre author.
Awesome.
Okay.
So I think we talked a lot about what my next book should be, and I don't want to get typecast as psychological thriller.
Oh, I see.
So the next book is not a psychological thriller.
So it's a Western romance.
Don't put it past me.
Dude, I love that.
Watch it is.
No, it's more of a, this book is so rapidly paced that so many people do read it like,
oh my gosh,
in one sitting.
Yeah.
It's more of a traditional mystery where it's deliberately written to not be like a book that you just like blow through.
The next one.
Yeah, I want to write a book that is one of those books you read all summer, and you get you take a little chunk every day and you can read it all summer.
Little poolside read.
Yeah.
So David Morrell. So David Morrell writes historical. He writes thrillers. He writes mystery. He told us, just like you just told us, he didn't want to be typecasted. So he didn't want to be put in a box. Like, I want to write whatever interests me when it interests me, because that's what interests me. And that's what I want to do. And that's pretty cool.
Did you get some pushback about not coming up with a second, Chloe book? Because you're probably going to have.
Oh my gosh, she could totally have a sequel.
Yeah. So people
you set it up for a sequel.
I did set it up for a sequel. I'll be honest. There was talk of that, and the converse, because I have about 100 pages of a sequel written, but we decided to go with something else for my next book.
Okay.
And then maybe some point in the future there will be a
2 books a year. Come on, you can do it. Come on.
2 books.
2
a year.
books.
Come on.
She's got a full-time job.
I'm actually glad I did not get a 2-book contract because I observed my friends. There's a Facebook group of 2021 debuts, and a lot of them were writing their second book while they were promoting their own launch week for book 1. And I was like, oh my God, I would go insane.
Yeah.
So we talked to many authors who are doing that. Like their book has come out, but they've written it last year, and now they're in the middle of finishing up like the book that's coming out soon. Like, and that's what they want to talk about because it's fresh in their head. And they're like, I forget what I wrote. I'm
right.
like, I think it's good. Yeah, no, yeah, sure. The character's name is, you know what? I don't remember. We had a New York Times bestseller come on here and forget everything about the book and was like, you know what? Can we just start that over? Because I don't know the premise of the book anymore.
Couldn't even remember it.
#1 New York Times bestseller.
Oh man,
outrageous.
But, I did reread it recently because I knew I'd be doing a lot of PR.
Yeah, that's
so when you reread it, were you like, yeah, this is good, or you're like, man, this sucks?
No, I enjoyed it. Like in all honesty, sometimes I crave reading my own writing, and there's like a certain. And then I've been listening to the audiobook, which
who did you get to do it?
Brittany Presley.
What?
Okay, Brittany.
She's really good. Yeah, I'm really happy with the decision to go with her. But it feels more like, oh, this is a book for some reason, hearing it as an audiobook than like, it's kind of surreal that it exists.
We had an author over the weekend that Chris and I were together at his award ceremony, and we had an author tell us, you really get to hear what your story is like when you hear an audiobook.
Yeah, Scott Brick was his narrator.
Yeah. And he's like, you really hear like what your book is about when somebody else is reading it out loud.
Yeah, or like things that I wrote to be like quiet haha are actually like more funny when someone else is performing them than it's in my head.
That's interesting.
Did you hear any that you were like, man, I could have just changed just a little bit down there. Like I could have just made a little.
No.
I'm happy with how the book. I'm not someone that wants to rewrite once it's published.
I like that confidence.
The enemy of good is better. Yeah.
Hey, Hollywood has to have called on this one.
Yeah, they did. And they must have heard that the book deal went down because we didn't contact them. They contacted us. A few different ones, and then we were like, okay, we're not ready to talk about this. And then one in particular, John Davis, was very aggressive in a good way with my film agents. That. Right. And we talked to them.
Might get made,
yeah. When I liked what they were saying. So we sold an option.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen. When this happened was, by the way, June, July of 2020, where we didn't even know if like the world would exist in 6 months. So I was like, all right, I'll take the money and run.
Yeah. Take it now.
No annuities, please. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, getting any kind of film option during the time of COVID was like crazy. So
nobody was filming anything.
Yeah. And I think it would be a really great IP that would just, people would binge the whole show and like, oh my gosh,
it's like it's got kind of a Dexter meets college kids kind of
I think would be a good comp, but also Dexter.
Dude,
that's I think it would be foolish for someone to not pick it up, so we'll see.
Agreed on that.
Agreed.
Congrats. And I thoroughly love the story, but let's raise a glass because you have completed the traditional portion of our
here we go.
Oh, there's a segue.
We're getting ready to ruin your career. Here we go.
Now
the segue, your career just started, and we're about to light it on fire in a sand pit. We're going to light it on fire in a sand pit. No, but now we're going to go to the lightning round where Mike and I are going to ask you stupid, silly questions because we're stupid, silly people. But you're not. But we hope you give us stupid, silly answers.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm going to get Chloe in you a little bit here.
Yeah. But actually, this one isn't that silly. I wrote this one. It's not a silly question. Is there one quick or telltale sign for people to determine if they're dealing with a psychopath or a sociopath?
I think the easiest way is like the lack of empathy, the callousness. They cannot take someone else's point of view to see why they would feel bad about something.
Sounds like all of our politicians in America.
When someone is callous, whether they're a psychopath or not, you just want to turn aside and walk the other way.
Yeah.
Okay. There it is, folks. All right. So there were lots of dialogue and scenes that stuck in my head long after reading Never Saw Me Coming, including when Charles is with Chloe and tells her she smells like burnt oranges, and it's right before he has a migraine.
Yeah.
Please tell me there's some kind of significance to that description. Maybe something to do with your PhD.
No, that's something people actually smell when they have a migraine.
Yeah, it's an olfactory response. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll smell something bizarre like burnt oranges.
Yeah, because there was something like cruel that was about to happen, right? And then he's like, "You smell like burnt oranges," and she's like, "What?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I got to leave."
Those two crazy kids can't get it on.
Yeah,
but here's the weird thing: like that's stuck in my mind. I'm like, "Wow, that's bizarre." I'm like, "That's kind of."
Yeah, no, I had a patient that would smell gunpowder.
Yeah.
Right before
really?
a migraine. Yeah.
So it's just a telltale sign because
Yeah.
Recognizable. If you smell it, I have to go somewhere.
Yeah. Lights out. Bad. Yeah.
It's very interesting. All right. So after you're reading your acknowledgments, it's apparent you've always wanted to be a writer. And from 2013, you've been submitting short stories and stuff. And this is your third novel. You even mentioned in fourth grade you were clocking away in a typewriter.
Old-fashioned typewriter. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, really? All right. So what's the title of that story and what's it about?
Oh, it was called The Underworld, and it was it was Greek mythology mixed with horror, because I was a big horror fan growing up.
Really? So there was no Kate Beckinsale in it?
This was before.
I know, and
like 20 years before the movie came out. No, I was really into, at that point in time, I was really into horror and vampires and that kind of stuff in Greek mythology. So I was like,
she's the old soul. Look at her.
So you're gonna write a horror horror book at some point, right?
Well, what I'm working on now, it's kind of hard to say if there is or isn't a supernatural element. So is it horror or isn't it?
We just talked to a pair of writers that just did something similar.
So they were writing some political thrillers, and then they went to Tyndall and they wrote some supernatural stuff, and it's like Supernatural, the TV show, which is one of my favorite shows, on steroids. And I was like, man, I love this story.
It was so good.
I was born and raised on horror. So,
well, here comes number two. It's going to be a winner already.
So at whatever you write, I'm going to read. So I'm a fan now.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'm up then, right?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. I'm going to test you here, Miss PhD. Okay. Here we go.
She's taking a drink, Mike.
Yeah.
This reminds me of like residency. All right. So what is physically lacking in the brain of a psychopath?
Yeah, that's interesting. So my understanding is that their amygdala is different. So the place that processes fear, that's one. And they know from, I wouldn't use the word deform, just that it is functioning differently.
Okay.
And when they look at stimuli that people who aren't psychopaths are looking at, so for example, people with emotional expressions on their faces, they're not viewing them the same. And in one case, it's like it's that parts of their brain aren't activated when they're looking at these emotions, but the parts of their brains that are trying to be like, well, how do I respond to this thing that I'm not getting? Those parts are being activated. There's definitely like something different is going on.
Yeah. So
entirely.
What I recall is that there's a disconnect between the prefrontal cortex where like our empathy and guilt and those types of emotions exist, and the amygdala is where you have fear and anxiety, and they're not talking to each other. And so a lot of times they don't understand, they have no fear because it's not communicating with the prefrontal cortex.
So you guys have all this medical experience and clinical experience. So is it fear? Is it lack of fear of anything? Or is it just lack of fear of like well,
they fear sometimes not getting what they want. I mean,
I think it's more they don't want to not get what they want. I don't think
not fear of like physical pain, but fear.
No, I think they don't feel fear. Period, because that's why they're so glib at lying. As part of what makes lying hard is I don't want to get caught, but they're just like instantly on to the next lie.
Yeah.
So
there's just this disconnect. They're just the brain is not communicating with itself.
I mean, that'd be useful in certain circumstances.
Oh yes, it is.
Yeah.
Look at the CEOs
I also think about,
Fortune 500 companies.
Surgeons operating on patients maybe have to turn off the part of their brain where they would feel empathy.
I know a couple of guys.
It would be hard. It would be really hard to do that type of work.
I would be a really shitty surgeon. My wife, I'm a crier. She'd be like, "You be crying." I would.
I was a little too emotionally invested sometimes too, but yeah.
Yeah.
All
that would
right,
be
number
draining.
2. Okay, it's a scenario. I have a partner on a show. Let's say his name is Karish. All right.
Mhm.
Never seems to care what I think.
Mhm.
He has very clever ways of getting me to agree to do things. So, what are some other telltale signs I should look for to assess whether or not I'm working with a psychopath?
So I mentioned the callousness, lack of guilt. So
Okay.
that would be one. The second one would be impulsiveness.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Third would be that kind of manipulative charm.
Big time.
Look at this smile. Look at his smile, not my smile. Don't look at mine.
One of the components is sort of behavioral, of like disregard for the law, getting into trouble, that type of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So what?
Yeah.
Wait. So why are they so charismatic though? Like
That is interesting. I mean,
is that?
How yeah, I mean, one of the original researchers in psychopathy called it a mask of sanity, that they're different and then trying to make themselves appear as if they're the same as everyone else. And maybe it has to do, part of it is the parasitic lifestyle that a lot of them have. In order to have a parasitic lifestyle, you have to be really charming. If you think of like the best con men, not having a stable job, you got to get someone else to pay.
Okay, so well, we know the answer to my question then. That's
his name is Sean Cameron.
I think it's absolute. No. All right, here's my last question. We kind of started to touch on this a little bit. A significant percentage of business leaders have psychopathic tendencies. And I saw one article claiming upwards of 20 to or more percent of business leaders have some of those tendencies.
Dude, that's unreal.
Can you think of some industry leaders that likely fall in that spectrum?
I think the best example I can think of is Bernie Madoff. There's a great documentary about him where they're interviewing him in prison, and at some point he blames his own victims for allowing him to victimize them. Like, he was actually like angry of like, and then why don't you feel bad for me? I'm the one who's in prison because of what these people did.
You gave me your money.
Yeah.
How you gave me your money?
Just the utter lack of sympathy for like literally taking money from Holocaust survivors. I mean, that is the lowest of the absolute.
How about it, right?
It took too long for him.
There's one point in the book where Chloe blames the geode for having hit someone. Which,
and then Charlie's like, I like geodes.
Yeah, it's I'm hoping to popularize geodes.
It's mentioned several times in
the
story. It is
product placement.
Sponsors.
Do you have one on your desk, in your writing desk? Is that why that came into play?
I just really like geodes, but I did get 2 really beautiful geodes, and I have one half. My agent has the other half, and my 2 editors have halves.
Dude, that's super cool. You also make a mention of is it Fort Hunt?
Yeah, Real Place.
Home? Real Place.
Oh wow.
Can you talk about that real quick?
It's sort of where George Washington's Mount Vernon estate is, about an hour from DC, and I needed like a beautiful location for an estate for a critical event to occur.
A little sanctuary
for
them to go to. Dude, I love this story, Mike. I know you love the story. Sean's on here. He loved the story as well. And sorry he can't be here, but holy shit, folks. Never saw me coming. I didn't see this coming.
I didn't see the debut of this strong coming out.
The fact that this is a debut blows my mind. It's really not. You've written 3 books. This is the first one to get published. The other 2 probably should be published as well.
Oh, they'll be out. You watch.
Mike, I know. Let's raise a glass. Vera Kurian, you are a fantastic author.
Yes. Congratulations and good luck from the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
But we're not talking about me. Who gives a shit about me? I want to talk about Vera Kurian.
Yes, sir.
Never saw me coming.
Didn't.
Dude, I did not. Actually, I didn't. Oh, no. Because I saw and I figured this would be a fantastic book for us to read, to review, to talk to Vera. Because holy shit, did I love this book. And I know you love the book. We've talked about it. She's an awesome writer. I can't read to whatever she has coming out next because I am a fan. Mike's
That's
a fan,
right.
Sean's a fan. Let's raise a glass. Vera, congrats.
It's a great book, folks. Go out and get it. You'll love it. Mm, mm, mm. Mm.
Yes.
This is the outro for
Am I
Vera
really?
Kurian. And
Yes.
never saw me coming. And
No, you
quite
didn't.
frankly, I did not.
You did not.
And this is Chris Albanese, the Grand Master winner of the Clyde Cluster Writing Contest of 2021. Congratulations, my boy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. very much.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.